this whole session is going to be divided into two parts. So we are going to start with discussing what is IoT and how its security has been the most important thing in the current era. And once we discuss this, in the next session, we are going to discuss how this security part is being upgraded with help of biometrics. So before directly jumping to biometrics, I thought it will be very good to give a very clear introduction to IoT and security because I have been working on IoT products since last 2 years, and I have seen like majority of the devices lack in terms of security. So let's start with just a generic introduction to what exactly is IoT. So when we talk about IoT, IoT is basically Internet of Things, right? It is a smarter way to transfer data and keep devices connected to each other over a common network. So these terms we might have already used or heard about. So in simple terms, when I'm saying I'm going to discuss about IoT, I'm going to discuss about those devices which are connected to each other via some common network. Now, when I say common network, this network can be Bluetooth network, this network can be Wi-Fi network, this network can be IR network. Well, there are various opportunities when we talk about common networks. Now, when we talk about common networks, next thing that comes into picture is transferring of data from one point to another. If you want to transfer data, there needs to be a medium. Just like when we clap or when we say something, air is the medium that is transferring data from one end to the other end, or the sound from one end to other end. Similarly, these devices need to be connected on a common network, right? So that's what we call about Internet of Things. The next thing is why we are discussing about Internet of Things. So the reason is Internet of Things is impacting industry in various prospects like agriculture automation, innovation, healthcare, smart transportation, industry automation, energy, IoT mobile apps, home automation, and vending solutions. So these are some of the technologies or places where IoT has been used. And I have worked on vending solutions and industry automation in these last 2, 3 years. And I have seen a great deal of change the way we handle these devices and the way we handle our home automation. Generally, home automation devices are not that secure. That's why you must have seen on the internet also, a lot of people connect to on a website from where they can control lights of someone else's house, right? Or if you are a big fan of Big Bang Theory, then you must have seen there is an episode where they are showing the power of IoT, where these people are sitting in US and someone from China is trying to control their sports vehicles in the sense sports toys, basically. So these kind of innovations have happened due to IoT. And since the security in these devices is not that great, these devices are susceptible to uh, internet threats, especially malfunctioning and all those kind of things can happen in these devices. And the great deal of energy is being put to bring our agricultural automation on top, because we as an agricultural country, we are focusing on more products which are going to improve in terms of agriculture. So devices like automatic pumps, which will detect the temperature, which will detect what is the current value and all those things, and will supply the right amount of water to all the trees, is a good innovation. There we don't have to worry that farmer has to get up at night 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock just because at that time the water supply is there or the current comes into picture, right? All we have to do is we have to connect all these devices to a IoT device where whenever the current comes up, the farmer will get a notification like, okay, now the current has came. What kind of activities you want to do? So he can just click on his mobile that start the pump for 15 minutes, put fertilizer for 10 minutes, and all these kind of activities if you can do from a click of button, you don't have to travel for a very long distance and do all those things manually. That's the power of IoT, and this is how it's going to revolutionize the industry of all the devices which are interconnected to each other. Now, I have given just an example of agricultural automation, Next big thing that is coming into picture is healthcare industry. Healthcare industry is the biggest industry that has got impacted due to IoT. And one of the best solutions that you might have already seen are some smart watches, right? Wristbands, Fitbit, all these kind of different devices are nothing but a healthcare product, which helps the user to track their information. And all this information is stored on a cloud, which is accessible to you via your mobile phones, right? So these all are some great examples of how IoT is impacting the world, right? And when I say about impact, I can also prove this via help of numbers. So the trend of IoT started in year 2000, but in 2000 not much of things were there. But when we came to 2003, it actually started. We actually started to build devices which can connect to various networks and form a cluster together. So at 2003, the world population was around 6.3 billion, and that time we had 500 million devices, which is for each person there was 0.08 connected devices. But within span of 7 years, our populations also increased. It raised to 6.8, but you can see the devices that are connected are actually double the value. They are almost double of our own population. It's around 12.5 billion. And at that time, for each person, it was around 1.84 devices. So, of course, these numbers are averaged and aggregated. That's why we are getting such a decimal value for these cases. But definitely, this technology was at least for one person, there were two connected devices by 2010. And as we increased, as our population increased in 2015, you can see this number of devices have increased double now. There are 25 billion, right? 25 billion devices. That is almost 4 devices per person. And as we are reaching in 2020, there are almost 7 to 8 devices for one person which are connected via IoT. Now, when I say 7 to 8 devices, I can actually count down all those devices and I can tell you, like, yes, you are using a IoT device. First thing will be your automated home systems. Like you must be having sprinkler systems at your home that is automated. So those things are connected to your mobile phones. And whenever you feel like, okay, I need to pour some water in the garden, you can just click on that and those sprinklers will open up. They will sprinkle water everywhere. Next, one of the application will be smart fridge systems. So I have seen a lot of technologies that have been coming into picture nowadays. And one of the most interesting thing that I came into is home automation. Why home automation? Because home automation is an industry which is for the consumers, which is for the consumers who are going to use the product and are going to be benefited from it. Definitely, the robots are also going to use it and they are going to create products, but the most impact that any device can do is for consumers is via home automation, where devices will automatically update you like, okay, now tomatoes are about to finish, there are only 2 tomatoes in the fridge, make sure you buy few while you're going to groceries. One more application can be temperature is this much, please reduce it down because the baby is sleeping. These kind of things are there. Then there is natural language processing devices like Google or Alexa. All these devices are nothing but IoT devices, which are connected to your smartphone, which are connected to your home speaker, which are even connected to your TV, right? So when we talk about these smart IoT devices, you can see I already named some 7 to 8 devices, and these all are interconnected to each other, which is why IoT is the thing that is going to be the thing of future, or it's going to evolve so drastically that it will be merely impossible for us to keep a track with this. But as this trend is improving, as IoT is, enhancing in terms of technology, one major threat that we continuously face is of security. I'm going to come to security, but before that, I want you to understand how IoT works. So the whole IoT process can be divided into 3 steps. First step is numerous devices with power connectivity. This is the most common step. That means if you want to work with IoT, you require devices which are going to connect to various applications, which are going to connect to something. But before that, they require some power connectivity. It's just like your smartphones. Without your battery in the smartphones, your smartphones will not work, right? Similarly, all these devices require a separate power connectivity. Once the power connectivity is provided, next thing that we require in these cases is devices connecting to each other and sending data to each other. That means second step is the connectivity process. Or here you can see at bottom three images, right? And the third step is remote control. I'm going to come to remote control. So first step is numerous devices. So you can see we have some IoT devices here. Now, those IoT devices are connected to each other and sending data to each other. Now, how they are sending data to each other? So they require a common medium to send this data. And as the technology is evolving, we have shifted our focus to cloud medium. That means we are going to connect all these devices to cloud, and cloud is going to make sure that what kind of information needs to be sent to what kind of device. Now, when you store it on cloud, that data will be analyzed on the cloud and generate some reports and all. Now, from those reports, it will send those report data to your smartphones. Now, with your smartphone, you will get the access like, okay, now the room temperature, earlier the room temperature was 10 degrees. Now it has increased to 30 degrees. Baby might, feel a little uncozy. So then it will tell you, you can reduce the temperature by clicking on this button. So when you click on that button, that remote server will connect again to cloud. Okay. From cloud, it will send data to IoT device that is your AC in the room, and it will reduce or increase the temperature based on your requirement. This is how a general IoT device works. Okay. Next thing is, what are the stages that we consider when we talk about IoT architecture? So these four steps are going to be the most important thing when we talk in terms of IoT. First is sensors and actuators. Sensors and actuators are the most common thing because if you take a simple human body ourselves, right? We all are humans. If we take our body is also having some sensors. We have in total five sensors. And apart from those five sensors, we have some actuators. Those actuators are like your mouth, hands, and feet, right? Now, if our body is considered as a sensor and actuator device, similarly, we are going to create some devices in real world which are going to sense some physical signals. Physical signals like they can sense light, they can sense heat, they can sense motion, they can even capture motion. All these kind of devices will fall under category of sensors, and actuators will be basically your motor drivers, motors, then robotic arms. All these things will be actuators, which are going to give some motion and get their task done. This is the first stage of the IoT architecture. Then second stage is internet gateways and data acquisition. Now, if you are going to make a simple project, let's say we are going to build a simple project with Arduino, you will require a sensor. Let's say that simple project is whenever a LED, whenever IR sensor detects something in front of it, a motor is going to rotate. That's our simple project, let's say. Okay. So for this project, our sensor was our IR sensor and the actuator was a motor, right? This was a simple process. Now all these things, the data is being transferred through Arduino board, right? But let's say this motor is placed in some other location. It is placed in my neighbor's house, and my Arduino board is connected to a Wi-Fi. Now, if I want to rotate that particular motor, I have to ask my neighbor to switch on the Wi-Fi to which my Arduino board needs to be get connected. And whenever IR sensor detects something here, that data should be sent via internet or via the Wi-Fi signal to that other Arduino, and there the motor should rotate. This is what we talk about in terms of internet gateway and data acquisition. Data acquisition in the sense getting the data here. So when I'm talking about this internet connectivity via Wi-Fi, the other Arduino board is taking the data from my Arduino board, right? and it is doing that via internet platform, correct? The next thing is edge IT and data center and cloud. So when I talk about this project, I am talking in terms of a very small IoT device. Now let's say that motor, instead of being with my neighbor, is present with my friend who is in US, right? If I want to connect there, definitely my Wi-Fi range is not that long that I can connect to we both can connect to the same Wi-Fi, right? If that was possible, then there was no need for cloud and all, right? So that's why in these cases, what will happen is, instead of sending data to a Wi-Fi server, we will send it to a cloud platform. Now, cloud platforms are engineering marvel in themselves, because these cloud platforms are present in different global locations, and all of these are connected with a DNS server. So whenever we send data from one server to another, since this interconnectivity is there, that data is getting transferred from one place to another very easily. That's why this trend of using cloud as data centers have emerged recently. Okay, so I hope this is very clear that what are the four stages of IoT architecture, and with each stage, we are adding a new component that builds our IoT device much more robust and platform ready, right? Now, this four steps I can also explain in a very clear manner. So here you can see I have mentioned all these things. First thing is sensors and actuators. Now these sensors and actuators can be wired or wireless. That is totally depending on what kind of application we are using. Now these sensors and actuators can be a device. It can be a device like camera. Your camera can also act as a sensor, because your camera will be capturing the videos, and that video can be sent to a cloud platform where that data is being processed, and based on that some necessary steps are taken. Now when I talk in these terms, I can give a very interesting example of Tesla car. So I hope all of you might be already knowing about the vehicle Tesla, right? A company called Tesla. Now Tesla is an engineering marvel in terms of driverless technology, and also in battery technology, or electric vehicle technology. So when I'm taking example of Tesla, I am talking about the IoT solution that they have implemented. What they have implemented is, all the devices are connected to each other. That means all the cars are connected to each other, and they are running a algorithm over on all the cars. That means it is a huge level of machine learning application. I'll actually show you how that thing works once I explain this IoT architecture. So first thing is sensors and actuators, which we already understood, that is wired and wireless. Next thing is internet gateways, data acquisition systems. So in these cases, we will be dealing with some routers, we will be dealing with some devices which can provide high-end internet gateway solutions. Okay. Now, once these devices are interpreted and established in our domains, what we will be doing is, we will sending the data to edge IT. So you can see there is a red color line in between, because this is the part where we deal with hardware, and this is the part where we deal with the software end, or basically where we deal with something that we can't see now. Now, once this data is sent to the cloud server, we will not be able to see the cloud server, but we will be able to access those cloud server via a computer, or in most of the terms, laptops, or any other connecting devices. So in these process, there is something called cold storage and hot storage. Because first thing is, whenever you send data from your sensors and actuators, those data need to be saved in the IT platform. Once you store that data, those data will be decided, okay, now what we should do with this particular data. Because it is very similar to any kind of data analysis. So if you are running a company, you will run a data analysis to understand how the market is trending, how the market is changing, and what all steps you need to take to improve your product quality. Similarly, when it comes to any IoT devices, all the data that has been sent to the cloud it will be processed and it will take some smart decisions. Like let's say the IoT device is monitoring your temperature, your body temperature. For last 5 days, you were having a normal temperature, and suddenly at night, one night, your temperature raised by 2 degrees. Now, this is a sign that you are going to have a fever. Or while having fever, we will feel some blockage in noses, we will feel some body pain. That means there is change of blood pressure and all those kind of things. So if your smart IoT device is able to detect those blood pressure and you know the change in respiration, it can understand that okay, your body is going to feel sick, and it can inform immediately to a doctor that this is the situation, please provide some medicines. Now, all this analysis, whether you are sick or whether you are healthy, was done on a cloud platform. It was not done locally on your mobile phone or on something. That data was sent and stored on clouds, and that data is being monitored by the devices itself. They are monitoring the data based on some factors that they have already mentioned, like 5 day cycle, 7 days cycle, 1 month cycle. All these kind of analysis are going on, and once some notable change is happening, those data centers are sending that data to your IoT device, or basically your mobile phones. Generally, all the IoT devices are majorly connected to a mobile phone, which connects to them and gives a very clear update of how things are working, right? So this is a very simple example of the stages of IoT architecture and how they are interconnected to each other, and what is the impact of these things in these cases. Okay. So anyone is having any doubts or questions, please feel free to ask. I would love to answer some questions as well.
Participants, if you have any queries, kindly unmute and ask to the research person, or you can put your questions in the chat box.
Sure. So what I'll do is, now that I have explained the IoT part, I'll just move towards the next part, that is IoT hardwares and softwares and how these things are connected. So when we talk about IoT technology stack, all these stacks are present in different locations, and you can see each one of them is having certain activity. Now, these activities are something that we need to understand, because we are going to deal with something called a security of these things. If we don't know how the process is working, we will not be able to provide a good security solution. That's the whole idea of it. Just like a locksmith, when it comes to opening a lock, he needs to know inside out of the whole technology. Similarly, we also need to know how the IoT technology stack is working. So first thing that we require is a device hardware. Device hardware in the sense, this is a vibration monitoring sensor, right? Let's say this is a vibration monitoring sensor. So we require some accelerometer sensors. So device hardware will detect these things, and device software, that means the software end, will read the accelerometer values and send data to cloud. Okay. Now this data transfer to cloud using some protocols. So we are going to discuss about those internet protocols as well, but majorly what we use is MQTT protocol. Then when we send data from here, it will be stored on cloud platform, and it will create data APIs. Now data APIs are created because if you want to integrate your data to, or if you want to send the data to a mobile phone, your mobile phone application requires a API of that particular cloud platform. Then only it will be able to read that data. So that's why we need to create a data API, and that data API will display raw data on dashboards. So these dashboards are present on your mobile phones. Generally, I'm taking an example of mobile phones because that is the one technology that we use on a regular basis, right? Once these devices are connected, these cloud applications itself will send the display alerts and trend reports. So you must be getting a lot of notifications on your mobile phones, right? Notifications like, okay, this kind of sale is going to happen. These kind of alerts and trend reports are sent via a cloud application. Okay. And next big thing that our cloud platform does is in maintaining maintenance of alerts, it will do some predictive analysis and maintains API. Predictive analysis is done, as I earlier also discussed, these analysis are done to understand the trend of the user. That means if I'm tracking your sleep cycle and for last 5 days you're not able to sleep more than 3 hours, that means there is something wrong. So these kind of predictive analytics can only be done with help of cloud platforms here. And continuous maintenance of these APIs are required as we are living in a very prone world to internet threats. So all these APIs need to be continuously protected and their maintenance need to be done on a regular basis. Then next thing is here at bottom, the last step is emergency shutdown. So the whole process, if in case of certain mishaps, there are three steps of emergency shutdown in any kind of IoT device. A IoT device which is completely implemented will definitely have these steps. First is in device software, it will, first thing is it will shut down the power, or basically uh, once the device hardware was giving some value, it will shut down that hardware to make sure that no problem gets created there. Next is real-time analytics. So this real-time analytics is processed by the device software, right? So these kind of analytics are sent to the cloud platform with this device. So that also needs to be shut down here. Then, sorry. Then on cloud platform, if we detect some threat, a shutdown alert will be sent to all the mobile devices or all the devices which are connected to each other. So you can see those alerts will be displayed on the dashboard and display alerts on mobile phones. So depending on the platform, those alerts will be sent, and then based on those alerts, the shutdown will take place in this device software, which will result in hardware not working anymore. Okay. So this is a simple roadmap of IoT devices. So as we discussed, IoT hardwares, we already know now that IoT hardwares like IoT sensors, wearable electronics, standard devices, all these things are different types of hardwares. You can see any kind of IoT sensor will have these many varieties: motion slash speed, chemical sensor, temperature sensor, humidity, proximity sensor, vibration sensor, vision sensor, and electromagnetic sensor. These are some common types of sensors that we use, and all sensors can be easily connected to any kind of IoT device. Now, some of the common IoT devices that we are using in our day-to-day life is some Fitbit devices and even Google Lens. Google Lens, in the sense, Google have created a smart, specs kind of, which gives all the data on dashboard or in front of your eyes, so that you can read your emails, you can navigate through any kind of map, and all these kind of applications are given in these kind of devices. Next is IoT software. So software deals with these key areas of networking. So any kind of IoT device will have two parts, as we discussed: hardware and software. In software end, we have devices which will focus on four categories. That was data collection, data integration, real-time analytics, and application and process extension. Okay. So when we talk about data collection, collects data from multiple devices and distributes it according with the settings. That means your IoT devices, one IoT device need not to be connected to only one, platform or one device. It can be connected to multiple devices and can share information over the network. So this data collection and distribution should be taken place or taken care by a software itself. The next thing is device integration. Manage various applications, protocols, and limitations of each device to allow communication. Now, whenever I'm talking about IoT, the one thing that that is coming into my mind is how vehicles are interconnected with all the components placed inside of them. So I'm going to discuss by taking that case study, and I'll explain you how these things are interconnected. Next is real-time analytics, that is to analyze information based on various settings and design in order to perform automation related tasks. And final thing is extends reach of the system, that is done by application and process extension. So all these devices need to have a very good foundation so that if you are planning for scaling the device on a much more larger network, you don't have to change the whole product. You have to just add some extensions, or you have to just add some extra features to it, right? So all those things can be done with help of the IoT software. Now, as we discussed, I'm going to come back to here. As I discussed, we are going to discuss about the communication protocols. That's what we are discussing right now. So in communication protocols, we have some widely used communication platform protocols like NFC, RFID, Bluetooth, radio protocols. In radio protocols, again, Zigbee is one of the famous one, then Z-Wave and Thread. And the most latest one that we are using nowadays is LTE and Wi-Fi Direct. Now, LTE is also going to be depleted, and we are going to shift to the next communication protocol of 5G networks. Now, that is another game itself. But if I start mentioning and where they are used and how good they are in terms of data transfer, then this is the protocol breakdown. So you can see 2G and 3G networks are basically depending on cellular bands, and their data transfer rate can be 10 Mbps. This is like maximum they can go for 10 Mbps. And best thing about these ones is they have very long range. Like they can communicate over a very long network area. This is how we are using our smartphones, or we are connecting with people. So this is one of the best thing about a cellular bands. And power usage in these cases is quite high, and these devices also cost quite high. So as we are discussing about communication protocols, I want you to keep pricing in terms, or pricing in your mind also, because pricing also determines how well any IoT device is being built, right? How well the IoT device is being built. And if you're spending more money on communication protocol, on your hardware and on your software, you're definitely keeping, your security as the last thing in the whole cycle. So it is just like, okay, we needed to give some security. That's why we are giving some security. So if that security area is not having a huge band or huge amount of at least a decent amount of team working on it, then those devices are not going to be very secure, and it will be very easy to break into those devices and to get control of those. Then next thing is Bluetooth devices. The frequency range is 2.4 gigahertz, and they can send data from 1 to 3 Mbps, and their range is quite low, that is around 300 feet, maximum 300 feet without any kind of obstacle present in between. If some wall or some trees are present in between, this network range will also fluctuate, and the data transfer rate will also fluctuate. So these devices are ideally used because they have low power usage and low cost. Now next that is important, next communication protocol that is important is LoRa, that is sub gigahertz. This is basically your local connectivity server, and its data transfer rate will be quite less, that is below 50 kbps, but range is decent. You can send data from 1 mile to 3 miles. Power usage is low and cost is medium. Now next big thing is LTE technology, that is again cellular bands, and it can send data between range of 1 to 10 Mbps, and the range is several miles. Again, this is very similar to your 2G and 3G network, since they are cellular bands. That's why the range is quite high. And in these cases, the power usage is less, but cost of these devices are quite high. So as we are improving in technology, we are trying to reduce the power usage. We are trying to improve the range of the communication and the data transfer rate. And also we are focusing on these things. That's why the costs are going to be little high. Then next important one here is Wi-Fi. That is again, it will have various categories, sub-gigahertz. So LoRa is like a extension of Wi-Fi devices or Wi-Fi technology. That's why both of them are having sub-gigahertz. Then 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz are just common ranges for Wi-Fi. And it gives one of the best data transfer rate, that is 1 to 54 Mbps. But only thing is range is quite small, cost is low, and power usage is medium. Now Wi-Fi devices are having very short range because it will depend on what kind of gigahertz device you are using, what kind of server you are connecting to, and what kind of connection you are building. So if you're going to connect various Wi-Fi devices, definitely your range is going to increase. And as you increase your range, the data transfer rate will also improve drastically. Okay. And next thing that we use is Zigbee and Z-Wave. They are again 2.4 gigahertz devices, which are having decent data transfer rate, low range, power usage will be low, and cost will be medium. So you can see as we are moving from one of the best technologies to these technologies which are having shorter range, the power usage and cost are reducing now, right? So generally, whenever we talk about any IoT device, they are definitely not using Wi-Fi and 2G or 3G technologies. In most of the cases, these are not the ones that we use. Majoritically, we use Zigbee or LoRa, or in some cases, Bluetooth as well. Right? These are some famous protocols that we use in short range connections, and that's why your data transfer rate will be quite low. But of course, it will not be that evident to all of us. Okay. Next is the applications of IoT. So as we already discussed, IoT is being applied in various industries like manufacturing application, healthcare industries, education, law enforcement, consumer applications. These are some of the technologies that where IoT is being implemented. And when we talk about law enforcement, IoT is one of the best examples because uh, when I talk about biometrics, I'm going to integrate it in much more better way. But when I talk about application of IoT in law enforcement, so IoT is used to send data from one place to another. So you must have seen some scientific movies, some sci-fi movies, where you must have seen all the soldiers are interconnected with some gear, and which is sending them continuous update about their mission. Like some satellite is there that is scanning the area, and if it finds some intruders in front of them, a huge bunch, it will compare like how many people are there and how many people are there on the team. Then this comparison will send them like, okay, these many people are detected in front of you. It is better that you don't engage in this warfare and you find a better route. So these kind of devices are connected via IoT, which are sending data from internet and from satellites, right? Now this is a little exaggeration. Of course, those technologies use satellite signals to communicate with each other, but definitely they can. They are also trying to implement in terms of IoT as well. So next thing is I have few case studies here to discuss, and these case studies are quite interesting. So cricket bracelet is one of the interesting thing that I came across when I was doing my research on IoT devices. Now, why this particular device is quite interesting. So this device actually replaces all the function of your mobile phone. Now you might say, okay, that can also be done by our smartwatches and all. So what's so cool about this one? So one interesting thing about this one is it is having a Pico projector. Now, Pico projector is a small projector that is present in this device. And when you wear this particular bracelet, the whole display of your Android phone will be shown on your skin itself. And you can interact on your skin, you can press on your skin, and those signals will be sent to the device and it will take the necessary actions. That means you can even make some calls from here, you can watch videos, you can write a mail. All these things you can do with help of this cricket bracelet. So I am going to break it down into different modules that it has, all the sensors and all, and how it is connected to the IoT processor. Okay. So let's try to understand now. First thing is it is having a long range proximity sensor, because since we are talking about a projector will only display a image on your skin. You are not able to, you will not be able to read the values, or projector is just an output device, right? It's not going to take any input like, okay, when you press here, I'm going to open some app. That's not how projector works. Projector only displays a image, or it displays a film reel, right? So your projector is connected to just show you the mobile screen. But whenever you click on your skin, or whenever you touch on your skin, how is this device understanding? So that is done by proximity sensors, which are having quite long range. Now now this device has 8 proximity sensors in front of it, and whenever you these, okay, let me show it with help of image format here. Like I'll like to draw and show it to you. That way it will be much more easier to explain. Just a sec. Just a second, guys. I'll try to explain it now. Okay, meanwhile, I'll talk about other devices. By the time my software opens, then I'll explain it to you. So proximity sensors are just going to detect, they are just going to project some lines, and whenever you place your finger in between, those lines will get deflected. So these proximity sensors are having such good range that they will understand like, okay, you have pressed around, let's say 2 centimeters. So what kind of icon was present on top that, on that area? It will detect that, and then it will do that particular action. This is how these devices are even able to work on your skin. The next thing is Bluetooth device, to connect it to Bluetooth devices, because this one is not having a, you know, speaker phone. So you need to connect it to mobile phone or something. So in those cases, you can use the Bluetooth devices present here and connect it to that. Next is a Wi-Fi component, because your mobile also require a internet connectivity to read data, right? So similarly, this device needs to be connected to your mobile with help of Wi-Fi. A LED device is present just to, give you some limelight and all those things, and a snap button. So snap button is basically open and close button. That's nothing complex. Then there is a very small battery that is present in front, inside of it, and it is having a micro USB port. Now this port is connected because if you want to transfer some data to your bracelet, you can do that by connecting it to mobile phones. Or if you want, you can charge it through those micro USB ports as well. Then there is a vibrator sensor to give you a feel that whenever some call is coming, you will feel that vibration and you will easily pick it up. Then there is a central processing unit which will process all this information and send it to your mobile phone, or get the data from your mobile phone in most of the cases. Then there is a memory card and ROM memory that is built in this device. So you can keep this device as a ROM memory, and you can watch some movies and all in these devices. That is very simple thing. And it is also having the accelerometer sensor. So basically it is having all the sensors that are present inside a mobile to make it function like a complete device. Similarly, your cricket bracelet is also having all these devices, and it is pretty interesting technology which reduces our communication through huge mobile phones, right? As we are growing, as we are improving in the technology, our mobile phone sizes are continuously increasing. Whereas this bracelet comes off like, 2 centimeter thick and wide, and you can wear it easily. That's the advantage of this one. Then second case study is of an Indian company called Tricog. So Tricog provides ECG solutions for heart patients within 5 minutes. So according to their survey, the first 30 minutes are considered as the golden minutes, or basically first 1 hour for any heart patient is considered as a golden hour. So if the patient is treated in that time, the chances of the patient to be alive are 80%. Whereas if that time is passed, then chances of people dying is 80%. That's the study that they have done. And based on that, what they have provided is all you have to do is you have to go to their TriCox center and they will do the ECG solution first, and then they will give you this app and all your reports will be saved in the cloud platform. All the reports will be saved in your cloud platform, and whenever you interact with the cloud platform, your data will be sent to the doctors. And also you can call for ECG specialists at your home who can do the ECG analysis for you and continuously update your data. So since this device is connected to your mobile phone, it reads the value, how much you're walking, how much water you have drank, and all those kind of information, which gives a very clear understanding for the people to understand like, okay, how is the condition of our heart patient? And if they feel any kind of change in the body motion or any kind of change in the solution provided, they will quickly send an ambulance within 30 minutes. That's the advantage. You don't have to click on, okay, emergency button or something. They will decide like whether your body is feeling good or not. And based on those decisions, they will send a ambulance. And in these cases, it helps a lot to make people understand, because sometimes the heart patient can be alone and he doesn't know what to do, and when a heart attack comes, it's very difficult to make a call or something. So that's where this technology comes, and which saves a lot of people, and they have a quite good success rate also in this device. That's why it is one of the biggest healthcare startup or healthcare startup in India, basically. Okay. Next thing is another healthcare startup, that is Doozy. So I was already explaining you about this device, but I'm going to go a little bit more deep in this one. So this device actually tracks your sleep cycles. So on the right hand side, you can see a Doozy pack kind of thing, right? So this Doozy pack, you have to keep it below your bed. You have to keep it below your bed and basically the mattress, and you have to just sleep. So this device, what it does is it actually tracks your sleep cycle being contactless. That means till this point, the sleep technology that we have seen are the smart watches that tracks your sleep cycle. But those are, you have to continuously wear them in your hand at night times also when you're sleeping to get that data. And those devices are not that accurate as you think. They are susceptible to errors to up to 60%. That's the problem in those devices. Whereas this device gives an accuracy of 98% and it is completely contactless. So you have to place this pouch just beneath your bed, and when you sleep and when you respire, your sleep cycles, your heart rate, your blood pressure, your uh, your respiratory systems, all those things, all those data will be sent to the Doozy device, and it will be connected to your mobile phone, which is capturing all the information. Now, whenever you wake up, you can just check how well you slept and what is your sleep meter, and all those kind of information you can get. And I already earlier told you about how IoT devices have changed in detecting the fevers and health conditions. So Doozy is becoming one of the trendiest thing in these cases, and it has raised a huge amount of funding within a 1 year span. So it is one of the best tech startup that is going to come into picture nowadays in India. The next thing is Mechanical Chef. So Mechanical Chef is two engineers who have built a very smart device which can detect, which can actually store some recipes of food. You can even create your own recipes and you can feed in the system. What this device will do is it will cook that food for you. All you have to do is you have to give that recipe and you have to tell the instructions like how it should cook, and the upper white compartment will store all the food and all the spices and everything, and it will create food and will build food exactly how you get it at restaurants or home cooked foods. That's the advantage of this device, and you can control this device remotely via your mobile app, You can just say, okay, today I want to have maybe, let's say sambar. So you can just click sambar and it will take all the necessary spices. Everything will be chopped and placed inside of it. It will just start the gas, it will start cooking, and it will give you continuous updates like, okay, this much amount of cooking is done. We have done this thing. So you don't lose the track of how things are going on, and you also understand how the machines work. So this is one of the interesting example that I came across. And these are the four interesting case studies. And now I want to discuss a little bit about IoT security. So when I talk about IoT security, any kind of security devices will be having three things into consideration. That is known as CIA triad. That is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Now, as our devices are improving, we have added few more layers to it. That is authentication, code validation, and non-repudiation. So confidentiality is basically you have the confidence that your data is not going to be leaked or it's not going to go in the wrong hands. Then second thing is integrity of data. That is all the devices will be integrated together and those data will be completely safe. That is one understanding that we need to have. And availability is all the information is available to you so that you are not kept in dark, right? Apart from these three things, we also require something called as authentication. Now, authentication came into picture because earlier when we were using passwords and all, those are not very hard coded. Those are very simple devices, and you can just break those things by using a trial and error method also. That is hard coding basically. Or you can do a code validation. Code validation is required because as you're connecting to various devices, you are connecting to your mobile phones, you are connecting to your computers. So how this code or how this software is working on various platforms and how it is making sure that the connectivity is safe is another aspect to the IoT security that can be taken care by doing the code validation and non-repudiation. Okay. So few common measures that generally we take in terms of IoT security is incorporating security on design phase. So any kind of IoT device that we are going to build will have various stages of security. Now these stages depend on what level of security the company needs to provide or company wants to provide it to you, right? So some of the common IoT security measures are incorporating security on design phase itself. That is the first stage where you're designing the whole device and you're trying to implement it. At that time itself, you should keep security in your mind and you should build devices based on those technologies. Because in some cases, security devices will also require certain types of hardware like detecting your fingerprints, a fingerprint scanner or a face scanner. All those kind of things will be there. So if you decide in the first stage, it will be very helpful for you and you can plan your budget accordingly based on these cases. Then next thing is hard-coded passwords never are part of security. That is just for you to feel safe, basically. Okay, if you want a hard-coded password that is just for your own security you're thinking, then it's not part of security and it can be easily cracked. So that's why we shifted to multi-factor authentications or switch to biometrics if possible. So multi-factor authentications in the sense, first thing will be your mobile phone will be having one code. Then if you go to your particular app, those apps will also have some pin numbers. Like you have to put a 4-digit pin or you have to put a 7-digit pin based on the app. These kind of multi-factor authentications are done. And one of the best way to do multi-factor authentication is using of biometrics, because biometrics will be very hard to mimic. So if someone else is trying to log into your phone, it will be very difficult for them to crack the biometrics part. So that is where our biometrics is going to come into picture. And in next session, we are going to discuss much more deeper in our biometrics. Next security measure that we take in any IoT device is PKI, that is public key infrastructure and digital certificates. So even if you go to certain websites, there are some digital authorities that make sure that those websites are safe. And if you reach to a website which is not agreeing to all these digital certificates, it will show this website is not secure. Please click more to view more information. And if you want to continue, you can click on this button. So these kind of digital certificates will definitely help a lot, and Google is always checking for these digital certificates before launching any application on their uh, Play Store. So when we heard about Paytm is being removed from the Google platform, the reason behind that one was they were not able to accept the same functionality, or basically what they did was they didn't follow the they didn't follow the official, how to say. So Paytm was removed from Google Play Store because it didn't follow all the norms. One or two norms were missing in that one. That's why they removed from there, and they told them like, this is just a warning. You can update all these things and you can come back to the platform. So these kind of digital certification and public key infrastructure will make sure that your device that is connecting is credible, or basically the application is credible, and you can verify that credibility by checking all the digital certificates of that particular website. Next is API security. Now, most common way hackers or data stealers or these people will get into your mobile phones by finding out a breach in your API system. Okay, so if your API API is basically application integration, where you will be connecting one device to other application with help of certain code. Now, if this API security is not correct, maybe the hacker can go to that server, he can get into that API, and from that API, he can come to your computer or your mobile phone in some cases. So API security is the most important thing when it comes to security of IoT devices. Now API security can only be taken care by making sure whatever type of platforms you are connected to are well recognized, they're having certain security for APIs, and they have tested their systems well. So some of the best example to get a, good API security is AWS, and AWS is leading in API security right now. So you can check about that one. Then identity management, like unique code and identifying for data protection. Now this is very similar to your biometrics, or it is an indirect hint that you should use always biometrics to make sure your devices are secure. Last thing is hardware security. By basic form of security, hardware should be susceptible to tampering. That means whenever we are talking about, till this point, we are talking about security and we are talking in terms of the data security, and we are just talking in terms where we are making sure everything inside as a software integration is well. But we also need to make sure that the hardware is also secured, because if you can remove the hardware and connect it to your computer, you can also access that data. That's why hardware security is the most important step in these cases. So to sum it up, next thing that we require is a network security. Network security like malware protection, firewall intrusion, port security, disable port forwarding. So in majority of the cases, one common problem that we face in network security is port forwarding. What people will do is, if port forwarding is enabled, they will just try to connect it to that, and they will port forward it to their device. So whenever some information is coming, it is directly going to their device and they are accessing your data without your knowledge. So these kind of simple common IoT security measures need to be taken before launching any proper application or any proper IoT device, which need to also be connected to security gateways. So gateways are basically checkpoints for your authentication. So you must have seen these security gateways when you are doing any kind of online payments, right? Online payments like on Amazon itself. Let's say if you're going to purchase something, first thing is you'll click on purchase, then it will be directing you to a web page where you have to put a OTP, right? That OTP will come to only your mobile phone. Once you enter that OTP, that data will be verified. Once that data is verified and checked that it is correct, then only the money transfer will take place, right? So these kind of security gateways are quite important in terms of making sure your all the connections are secured. Yeah. So with this, we are finishing our first session.